Cassie stared out over the rim of her coffee mug, heart pounding as her mother's voice cut through the morning calm like a knife. "Cassie, when will you stop embarrassing this family?" She met their disapproving gazes with defiance, though inside, she was trembling. "I didn't realize existing was embarrassing," she muttered. "Don't be smart," her father snapped. "Your sister manages to dress appropriately for family breakfast." Jocelyn shifted uncomfortably in her pressed blouse and slacks, while Cassie glanced down at her paint-splattered overalls, the last stand of rebellion stitched into denim. "I came straight from the studio," she said simply. "My art doesn't keep regular hours." Her mother's lips tightened. "Art? Is that what you're calling those scribbles now?" The word stung, but Cassie refused to let it show. Her name was Cassandra Harlow, Cassie to the few who actually knew her, and she was suffocating in a family that couldn't see past their own expectations. "They're good enough for the buyers at the gallery," she retorted. Her father scoffed. "Buyers? As if anyone with taste would pay for that nonsense." "Warren," her mother hissed, not at the table. But he was on a roll now. "When are you going to grow up, Cassandra? Your sister's already making partner at her law firm. What do you have to show for yourself?" Cassie gripped her mug tighter, knuckles white. "I have my integrity. And my freedom." "Freedom?" He laughed bitterly. "Is that what you call mooching off your parents at 28? Rent for that overpriced closet you call a guest house is a pittance," he sneered. "Hardly covers the utilities," her mother added coolly. Jocelyn cleared her throat. "Maybe we could talk about something else. The weather's been lovely." "Stay out of this," Cassie and her father snapped in unison. Jocelyn shrank back, and for a moment, Cassie felt a pang of guilt. It wasn't her fault she was the golden child. Cassie stood abruptly, chair scraping against the hardwood. "I think I've lost my appetite." "Sit down," her father commanded. "We're not finished." "I am," she said, heading for the door. Her mother's voice followed her. "This is why you'll never amount to anything, Cassandra. You can't even finish a simple family breakfast." She paused at the doorknob, the urge to lash out nearly overwhelming. But she swallowed it down. "You're right, Mother. I can't finish this knot anymore." Stepping outside into the crisp morning air, she let the door slam behind her. The manicured lawn of the main house stretched before her, a perfect facade hiding the rot beneath. She strode across it, grass staining her bare feet. Her phone buzzed, a text from Jocelyn. Asterisk, "I'm sorry. They shouldn't have said those things." Asterisk. She ignored it, shoving the phone back in her pocket. Her sister's pity was almost worse than their scorn. The guest house loomed ahead, her prison for the past year. She'd moved back in after a bad breakup and an eviction notice, swallowing her pride for what she thought would be just a few months. Now it felt like quicksand, slowly pulling her under. Inside, she surveyed the cramped space. Canvases lined the walls, splashes of color defying the beige monotony her parents preferred. Her latest piece sat on the easel, an abstract swirl of reds and blacks, emotion made visible. She grabbed her battered suitcase from the closet and started throwing clothes in haphazardly. Enough was enough. She couldn't keep suffocating here, trying to fit into a mold that was never meant for her. A knock at the door interrupted her frenzied packing. "Cassie? It's Jocelyn. Can we talk?" She hesitated, then opened the door. Jocelyn took in the suitcase, eyes widening. "You're leaving?" "I have to," Cassie said softly. "I can't do this anymore, Jess." She nodded slowly. "I understand. But where will you go?" Cassie laughed a bit hysterically. "No idea. But anywhere's better than here." Jocelyn bit her lip. "Let me help. I can lend you some money to get started." "No," Cassie cut her off gently. "I appreciate it, but I need to do this on my own." Jocelyn looked hurt but nodded again. "Okay. Just promise you'll stay in touch." Cassie softened slightly. It wasn't her fault she was the daughter they wanted. "I promise." As she finished packing, Jocelyn hovered uncertainly. "What should I tell them?" Cassie zipped the suitcase closed with finality. Tell them I'm finally growing up." She shouldered her bag and grabbed her easel. Jocelyn followed her out, watching as she loaded everything into her beat-up Volkswagen. Be careful, she said as Cassie slid into the driver's seat. Cassie managed a small smile. Always am. As she pulled out of the driveway, she caught a glimpse of her parents watching from the window, faces a mixture of anger and disbelief. She lifted her hand in a mock salute, then pressed down on the accelerator. The mansion shrank in her rearview mirror, and with each mile, the weight lifted from her chest. She had no idea where she was going, but for the first time in years, she was free, and that was worth more than all the approval in the world. 3 weeks later, Cassie adjusted her easel under the beating sun, squinting at the canvas before her. This was her first real attempt at making it on her own, the local art fair. Her stomach churned with excitement and dread. Interesting use of color, a deep voice said behind her. She turned to see a man studying her latest piece, head tilted thoughtfully. Thanks, she replied, trying to gauge if he was being sincere or sarcastic. His rugged good looks were offset by grease-stained hands and well-worn jeans. Not exactly the typical art fair patron. He grinned, disarming her completely. I mean it. The way you've captured light here, he pointed to a swirl of yellow and orange. It's like looking at a sunset through stained glass. She blinked, surprised by his insight. That's exactly what I was going for. He extended a hand. I'm Rhett Lawson. Cassie Harlow, she said, shaking it. His grip was firm, calloused. So, Cassie Harlow, he said, gesturing to a darker piece, stormy blues and grays. Tell me about this one. She hesitated. It's deeply personal. Painted during one of my lowest moments after leaving home. Something in Rhett's open expression made her want to share. It's about feeling trapped. Like you're drowning in expectations that aren't your own. Rhett nodded slowly. I get that. Family stuff. She laughed humorlessly. Is it that obvious? Let's just say I recognize the look, he said with a grin. So, what did you do to get out from under it? This, she said, gesturing to her paintings. Decided it was time to sink or swim on my own terms. Brave, Rhett said, admiration in his voice. They talked for hours, the rest of the fair fading into background noise. Rhett, it turned out, was a mechanic with a passion for restoring vintage cars. He described engines the way she talked about color theory, with enthusiasm that was infectious. As the fair wound down, Rhett helped her pack up her unsold pieces. So, he said casually, I was thinking of taking a drive up the coast tomorrow. There's this great little seafood shack about 2 hours north. Want to come? She hesitated. It was impulsive, maybe even reckless. But wasn't that what she wanted when she left home? To take chances? To live freely? You know what? Yeah, she said, surprising herself. I'd love to. The next morning, she was waiting outside her cheap motel room when Rhett pulled up in a gleaming 1967 Mustang convertible. Her jaw dropped. You like? He asked, patting the hood affectionately. It's gorgeous, she breathed, running a hand along the smooth paint. Restored her myself, he said proudly. Hop in. They cruised up the coast, wind whipping through her hair. Rhett kept her laughing with stories of disastrous first dates and entitled customers. For the first time in years, she felt truly relaxed. The seafood shack lived up to Rhett's praise. They devoured fresh crab cakes and clam chowder at a weathered picnic table overlooking the ocean. So, Rhett said, wiping his mouth, what's next for you after the fair? She shrugged, suddenly self-conscious. Honestly, I have no idea. I've got enough saved to last a couple months, but after that, she trailed off, reality sinking in. Rhett nodded thoughtfully. You know, my mom runs this little gallery in town. Nothing fancy, but she's always looking for fresh talent. Cassie stared at him, torn between gratitude and pride. That's really kind of you, but I don't want charity. It's not charity, Rhett insisted. Your work is good, Cassie. Really good. Mom's got a great eye. If she likes what she sees, it's because you deserve it. She bit her lip, considering. It was a lifeline, a chance to actually make this crazy dream work. Okay, she said finally. If she's interested, I'd love to meet her. Rhett grinned. Great. I'll set it up. As they drove back, the sun setting in a blaze of color that put her paintings to shame, Cassie felt a spark of hope ignite in her chest. For the first time since she'd left home, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The future didn't seem quite so daunting anymore. We pulled up to my motel, and Rhett killed the engine. There was a moment of charged silence between us, neither of us wanting the night to end. "I had a really great time today," I said softly, looking into his eyes. "Me too," he replied, leaning in just slightly. And then I met him halfway. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, but it deepened, carrying with it something real, something I hadn't felt in a long time. When we finally broke apart, we were both a little breathless. "So," Rhett said with a mischievous glint in his eye, "what do you say we make this a regular thing? The road trips, I mean," he added quickly, though a grin tugged at the corner of his mouth. Although the kissing part was pretty great too. I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in years. "I'd like that. Both parts." As I watched him drive away, I realized something. I had taken my first real step toward independence. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. But whatever came next, I knew I was ready to face it head-on. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink. Rhett and I sat on a checkered blanket, the remains of our picnic scattered around us. 6 months had passed since that first road trip, and every single day had been an adventure. "Cassie," Rhett said, his voice uncharacteristically serious, "these past few months have been the happiest of my life." I turned to him, smiling. "Mine too." He took a deep breath, reaching into his pocket. "I know it might seem fast, but when you know, right?" My heart skipped a beat as he pulled out a small velvet box. "Cassandra Harlow, will you marry me?" Inside was a simple but beautiful ring, a delicate silver band with a small, sparkling diamond. It was nothing like the flashy rocks my mother always fawned over, and I loved it for that. "Yes," I breathed, tears pricking my eyes. "Yes, of course I will." Rhett's face broke into a radiant grin as he slipped the ring onto my finger. We kissed again, wrapped in the warmth of our shared joy. Reality came crashing back the next morning as I stared at my phone, my parents' number hovering on the screen. I needed to tell them. The thought made my stomach churn. "You don't have to do this," Rhett said gently, wrapping his arms around me from behind. I leaned into his embrace. "I know, but they're still my family." He kissed the side of my head. "I'll be right here." Taking a deep breath, I hit call. Mother answered on the third ring. "Cassandra? Is everything all right?" "Everything's fine, Mother," I said, steeling myself. "I have news. I'm engaged." There was a long pause. "I see," she said finally, her voice tight. "And who is the lucky man?" "His name is Rhett. He's a mechanic. He specializes in vintage car restoration." Another pause. Longer this time. "A mechanic," she repeated flatly. "Cassandra, surely you can't be serious." "I am," I said, my resolve strengthening. "We'd like you to meet him. Maybe we could come for dinner next week." I could practically hear her internal struggle before she sighed. "I suppose that would be acceptable. Wednesday at 7. The week dragged by in a blur of anticipation and dread. Rhett remained steadfast, his quiet confidence bolstering my own. When Wednesday arrived, we pulled up to my parents' house in Rhett's prized Mustang. "Ready?" he asked, squeezing my hand. I nodded, though I wasn't sure if I trusted myself to speak. Mother answered the door, her smile brittle. "Cassandra. And you must be Rhett. A pleasure to meet you," she said, shaking his hand briefly. Her nose wrinkled slightly at the lingering traces of motor oil. "Please, come in. Your father and Jocelyn are waiting in the living room." Jocelyn hugged me tightly, whispering, "Congratulations," in my ear. Father merely nodded, his expression unreadable. Dinner was tense. Mother peppered Rhett with questions about his background and education, each answer clearly disappointing her. Father remained mostly silent, watching Rhett with narrowed eyes. Finally, he spoke. "So, Rhett, what are your intentions toward my daughter?" Rhett met his gaze steadily. To love her, support her dreams, and build a life together. Father scoffed. Love? Real love comes with financial stability. Surely you don't expect her to live on a mechanic salary? Dad. I interjected, anger flaring. I can provide for myself. My art. Your art, he cut me off dismissively. This nonsense has gone on long enough. This marriage isn't happening. I stared at him, stunned. You forbid it? That's exactly what I'm saying. As long as you're part of this family. Then maybe I don't want to be part of this family, I shouted, standing abruptly.
Come on, Rhett.
We're leaving. Rhett rose calmly. Thank you for dinner, Mr. and Mrs. Harlow. I'm sorry, we couldn't find common ground. As we headed for the door, Jocelyn caught my arm. Cassie, wait. They'll come around. Just give them time. I shook my head, tears threatening to spill. I've given them my whole life, I can't do it anymore. Outside, I collapsed against the car, sobs racking my body. Rhett held me close, murmuring soothing words. I'm so sorry, I choked out. You didn't deserve that. He tilted my chin up, his eyes full of love. Hey, none of that. I knew what I was signing up for. Remember, we're in this together. As we drove away, I felt a strange mix of grief and liberation. The bridge to my old life was burning behind me. But ahead lay a future full of possibility, one I got to shape with my own hands. So, Rhett said, his usual humor returning. One apartment? I laughed through my tears, the weight on my chest easing slightly. You know what? That doesn't sound half bad. The key scraped in the lock as Rhett and I stumbled into our new loft, arms laden with boxes. Sunlight streamed through the large windows, illuminating the dusty hardwood floors and exposed brick walls. Home sweet home, Rhett said, dropping a box with a grunt. I spun slowly, taking it all in. Small. Rough around the edges. Absolutely perfect. I can't believe we did it, I whispered. Rhett wrapped his arms around me from behind. Believe it, babe. This is our fresh start. We spent the day unpacking, transforming the empty space into something uniquely ours. My easel claimed a corner by the window, while Rhett's vintage car posters added character to the bare walls. By nightfall, we collapsed onto our second-hand couch, exhausted, but exhilarated. To new beginnings, Rhett said, clinking his beer bottle against mine. And to telling convention to shove it, I added with a grin. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Rhett threw himself into getting his restoration shop up and running, working long hours to transform an old garage into his dream workspace. Meanwhile, I set up an online store for my art, nervously listing my first few pieces. Are you sure about the prices? I asked Rhett for the 100th time, hovering over the publish button. He kissed my forehead. Your work is worth every penny, Cass. Trust yourself. Taking a deep breath, I clicked publish. It felt like sending a piece of my soul out into the world. Days passed with no sales, and doubt began to creep in. Maybe my parents were right. Maybe this was all just a pipe dream. I threw myself into painting, channeling my frustration onto the canvas. One morning, Rhett woke me by shaking me excitedly. Cassie, wake up. You've got to see this. I blinked groggily at the laptop screen he shoved in front of me. It took a moment for the numbers to register. Wait, is that 3 paintings sold overnight? Brett hooped. Look at the comments. They love your work. Tears sprang to my eyes as I read the glowing reviews. It wasn't just the money, though that was certainly welcome. It was validation. Proof that my art spoke to people. I told you, Rhett said softly, pulling me close. You're amazing, Cass. The sales continued steadily over the next few months. I expanded my online presence, even landing a few commissions. Meanwhile, Rhett's shop gained a reputation for quality work, attracting a loyal clientele of classic car enthusiasts. One evening, as we celebrated another successful week, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Jocelyn. Can we talk? It's important. My stomach twisted. I hadn't spoken to anyone in my family since that disastrous dinner. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to protect the life Rhett and I had built. but curiosity won out. "Hey, Jess," I said when she picked up. "What's going on?" Her voice was strained. "It's Dad. There's been a scandal at the university. He's been forced to resign." The news hit me like a punch to the gut. Despite everything, I never imagined my father's carefully constructed world crumbling. "What happened?" I asked quietly. Jocelyn hesitated. "It's complicated. Financial improprieties. Abuse of power. It's all over the local news." I sank onto the couch, mind reeling. Rhett sat beside me, concern etched on his face. "How are Mom and Dad handling it?" I asked, though I could already guess. "Not well," she admitted. "Mom's a wreck, and Dad, he's not the man we knew, Cass. They're going to lose the house. Everything." A part of me, a petty, wounded part, wanted to feel satisfied. Isn't this karma for how they treated me? But the larger part of me ached for my family, for the pain they must be going through. "What do you need from me, Jess?" I asked quietly. She took a shaky breath. "I hate to ask, but could you come see them? They won't admit it, but I think they need you." I closed my eyes, conflicting emotions warring within me. Rhett squeezed my hand, supportive and steady. "I'll think about it," I said finally. "I can't promise anything, but I'll think about it." After I hung up, I felt the weight of the situation settle over me. Rhett listened without judgment, his steady presence a balm to my churning thoughts. "Whatever you decide," he said when I finished, "I'm with you. If you want to see them, we'll go together. If you want to stay away, I'll support that too." I leaned into him, grateful beyond words for his unwavering support. "I don't know what to do," I admitted. "Part of me wants to help, but another part is terrified of getting sucked back into their world." Rhett nodded thoughtfully. "You don't have to decide right now. Sleep on it. Whatever choice you make, it'll be the right one."